JD Aggies here with AL Football Chat at the online clinic being put on by Chief Pigskin in Birmingham, Alabama. Sitting here with co-host Will Johnson, and we are sitting down right now with Miles Holcomb, head coach at Southside Gaston. Coach, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Doing well. Glad to be here. Excited about talking a little football.
No doubt. So tell us a little bit. Let's get started with, what are you presenting on today?
So got three different topics. The first topic is really just kind of like our system, kind of what it looks like. We talk about a player-driven purpose, and so it's really a 12-month look at, from the time the season's over, hopefully in December until the next December rolls around, like what that looks like for us, how we go through our program, how we go through the off season, what we do to kind of get our kids ready from the end of the season the previous year into the next season. And then the second one is really more of an in-depth look at offensively how we game plan week in and week out, what that looks like from practice to the breakdown, coaches-wise, and then into a game day call sheet. And then lastly, really what our offense is. Just some kind of clips of our offense. We call it the running raid. Coach Curvin and Alfreda kind of gives me a hard time because that's what we kind of come up with that name when I was over there with him, and then we just kind of brought it over with us to Southside. And so that's really kind of what I'm going to be talking about today, and try to give somebody at least something they can kind of take with them.
No doubt.
Well, Coach, obviously you're at Southside Gaston. Could you just tell us about where you started at and, kind of what brought you here to Southside now?
So I started initially for me, I'm from Crossville, Alabama. Went played at Crossville High School, and went over and played it shorter. At the time, we were Shorter College. It was an NAIA school at the time. Now they're D2, and played for who I thought was one of the best coaches in the world. Coach Jones at the time. He talked about relationship, was real relationship driven coach when I was there. And then Bill Smith hired me right out of college, and Bill's an incredible dude, incredible coach, to go back to Crossville. And then in the 3 years right out of college was three different coaches. Started with Bill, who I think is one of the best offensive minds, and had a chance to learn from him. I think it was just like me and him on the offensive staff, and that's about all we had. So I kind of got immersed into kind of how you game plan, how you break people down, because we had to. We only had like 24 kids on the team, and we were having to find ways to kind of take guys offense, defense, and I was coaching inside linebackers and coaching offensive line, and my uncle was a defense coordinator, and so there was no, there was no time to rest. You had to paint the field, do the laundry, game plan on both sides of the ball. I mean, that was just kind of what you did. And then a couple years later, I worked for Robbie Coker. So Robbie Coker came in. He was at Ole Miss coaching basketball with Andy Kennedy. Decided he wanted to come back and coach football. Mm-hmm. So for a year, he coached football at Crossville, and I had a chance to coach with him and kind of see how he ran programs, and really, more than anything else, like how he built his relationship with kids. And the way that he would talk to guys, and the way he would bring them in, and the trust he had, and the trust he could build with other people, and I think that speaks for itself, like his success basketball-wise now, and like he's kind of made his transition over to from Crossville with us to Plainview, all the success he had there at Plainview and all the state championships he won at Plainview to now at Fort Payne, and like to see what he's done with Fort Payne basketball year one. I talked to him. He used to have a little show called Heat Check. And so we're middle of the year, and I was talking to some of our coaches. I was like, man, y'all ain't never watched Heat Check? And they was like, no, I don't know what that is. So I like sent him a picture, and I was like reminiscing on some old times. And he said, I wish that stuff would die, And he sent me another text. Like, I forgot kind of, how hard year one was. And he's kind of done it 3 years now. He did it at Crossville and did it at Plainview, and now he's doing it at Fort Payne. And so learning from him and getting a chance to still have a relationship with him has been huge. And then, had a chance to go to North Jackson with Tony Johnson, who's, was at Mountain Brook for a long time as an offensive lines coach. Now he's at Briarwood. And, man, he was great, just kind of learning fundamentals, like learning how to do what you do. And he's a real process-oriented guy. And then, Bo Culver at the time was at Sparkman and ended up getting an opportunity to go to Haleyville, kind of where his wife's from. So he brought me on with him, and really the reason we left to go do that was because my wife was teaching in Georgia. That was the first opportunity we had to go be at the same place together, work in the same place, both be in Alabama, and took that opportunity. So then worked there for 2 years and then had a chance to go be a head coach back at my alma mater at Crossville. Went there, took that opportunity, thought you have all the answers, and then you get there and you realize, like, you don't even know you didn't know, And as an assistant coach, you're like, man, I know when I get a head coach, I'm going to do this, and I've got all these answers. And really you make suggestions as an assistant coach, and then you get the chance to be the guy that is the one. Your ideas are no longer suggestions, your decisions. And so those decisions have ramifications. And so everybody can tell you, well, I do it like that, or I do it like this, or I do it like that. And then all of a sudden you get those opportunities to do that, and you realize, like, your decisions have consequences to more than just you, more than just your kids, sometimes to different programs. And for us at Southside, like 74% of our roster are multi-sport kids. And, we were talking before, we had kids that went down and got hurt, and like that affected us. But 4 of those kids are basketball kids, And so when you lose 4 starters to a basketball program, that's significant, And so I think it's kind of having an effect on our basketball team as much as it had an effect on us football-wise. But then had an opportunity to leave Crossville and go learn from who's one of the best in the state, at Hoover with Coach Niblett, and coach some great guys and meet some other people that kind of helped me figure out the way that I wanted to run a program if I had a chance to do it again. So I was there for 2 years, coached quarterbacks and then coached receivers. And then our offense coordinator got a job at Alpharetta. And he was like, hey, if you come over here, I want you to be the offense coordinator, assistant head coach. And at the time, we were 7A in Georgia at Alpharetta. So I go with him, and we go during COVID, figure out how to, run a program virtually for the first couple months. And Coach Urban was our athletic director at Hoover. Talking to him one night, and he said, hey, you need to apply for the Southside job. I didn't know anything about the job, really, to be honest with you. And I was like, Coach, I don't really know anything about that. And he's like, I don't really know anything about that place. He's like, I'm just telling you, like, if you go and you do things the right way and you are who you are, I think you'll have a chance to be successful. He said, I don't know how many years it's going to take, but I think you have a chance to be successful. I think that community is looking for somebody to be, to come in and change things a little bit and have some stability and really build it. So put my name in. I didn't think I was going to have a chance, and y'all know how it is. Like, nobody gets anywhere on their own. Like, you got to know somebody, or you got to have some help, or you got to have somebody that vouches for you to kind of help you get your foot in the door. And Coach Urban was that for me. He's from Southside. He knows some people there, and got me an opportunity to sit down and have an interview, kind of pitch my vision of what it could be. And fortunately enough, like, they believed in it. Go in for a year, and we go 5-6, 5-6. And then that I think those 2 years, right, wrong, or indifferent, allowed us to have the success we had this year, to be honest with you. When I got there, I remember there was a guy in the community whose son was a senior at the time, my first year. He's like, Coach, I'm just telling you, if you get this thing now, we're gonna struggle for a little bit. I'm talking 2-8, 3-7 struggle. And part of the things that I'm gonna talk about in the first one, in the 93 seasons before, from 1926 to 2020, they'd only made the playoffs 9 years total, and only had 2 different pieces where they'd been back-to-back years, like 84, 85, and then 13 and 14. And from 2020 on, we've made the playoffs every year. I think this graduating class will be the first class that never missed a playoff. And so we went from maybe we'll make the playoffs to that's now the expectation. And that really has to do with my administration allowing me to kind of put a staff together that has the same standards. And then our kids really just kind of invested in what our vision was. And so that kind of got me where I am here now.
Yeah. Well, not to boost you up or anything like that, but to give you a compliment, before you got to Southside, me personally, I'd never really heard much about Southside. And now I would say y'all have got one of the best social media presences. You've got the YouTube show that you guys did. You've done a lot to really boost your kids. Talk about the importance that you guys place on that.
Yeah, I think somebody asked me a couple years ago, why did you put so much importance on the brand and in your brand? And it really ain't my brand; it's our school's brand. And I said, well, if brand wasn't important, why do we have logos? Why do we have school names? Why wouldn't we just go out there with just some colors on us? Yeah. And dictate, and it'd look like a scrimmage. But obviously, brand's important. And so we tell our kids, like, your brand's important. Like, your brand says a lot about who you are. And I think, we used to talk about, like, image and identity. And your brand is basically when both of those things come together. Because when people see, our new S or our the Panther Paw, like, on the schedule, like, what do they think of? Like, how are they going to have to prepare for that game? And that's what our brand is, really what other people see you as. And I think that it's hard. Like, recruiting's hard. The brand, the type of kid that we put out of our program really allows other guys that's coming out of that program and our program to have an opportunity to go play at the next level. And we got a lot of guys that want to go play at the next level. Well, y'all know how it is. Like, getting high school kids recruited is tough. Yeah. We got a 2,000-plus yard back that's a first-team All-State kid that's having a hard time finding a home. He's a 3.5 GPA, and he's had back-to-back years of 1,500-plus yards in what we felt like was a tough 5A region, We had 3 losses this year. One of them came to Guntersville, who was a semifinal team, and we had the ball on the 1-yard line with 40 seconds to play and then couldn't find a way to punch it in. The other loss was against Moody, who was a quarterfinal team. Both of them lost to Ramsey, who played for the state championship. And going into the fourth quarter of the Moody game, it's 21-14. And then we lost in the playoffs to a good Boaz team who we had to find a way to win in overtime the first time we played them. And like I tell our guys, like you want to build experiences, and tell different kids inside and different parents. Like, when we have a parent meeting, I can't guarantee wins. We just want to give our guys a chance to have a chance in the fourth. That's the only thing we ask for. And what I can guarantee is that when they're done, that they'll look back and be like, man, that was an awesome experience. Like, I don't regret playing football for a minute. And a lot of times you'll talk to guys that, for whatever reason, decided not to play. Well, they're always like, man, if I could go back, well, I sure would play. I'd play football. I wish I would have played. I ain't met nobody yet that was like, I tell you what, if I could go back, I'd never play football.
You're exactly right.
I ain't ever met one of those people. So building our brand and pushing out, like, all the stuff that we push out, one, I think it helps in recruiting. But two, I think it gives the people that's inside our own building to be able to look at it and be like, I think I want to do that. Because we had some guys come out this year that may not have played previously. Yeah. But just, one, helped us build our culture, and two, helped us make some plays on the field. Yeah. Because they saw the what we were doing kind of push out. It just looked fun. They're like, man, it looks fun. I want to try that. So I think that was big for us.
Well, Coach, pushing it back here to a little bit more football scheme talk, and an offensive guy, I want to know, what's your number one run scheme, number one pass scheme that you hang your hat on?
Well, I think a lot of things for us in the run game stems off a wide zone. When you put a lot of pressure on people that have to cover, 53 and a third, I think that opens up a lot of other things for us. And we do a lot of run solution or RPO, and people call it different things. And we tag it differently based off of, are we reading a second-level defender or are we reading a third-level defender? For us, a run solution is really kind of off of a second-level defender read. Well, we tag a ton of different run solutions off of our wide zone. And we tell our quarterback, like, there's obviously you have pre-snap numbers and leverage that kind of dictate, like, am I going to take this wide zone or am I going to take the solution? But then you have, like, a post-snap, like, mesh movement key. And that's the guy that's going to tell you, like, hey, just pull it and throw it. Yeah. Or, no, let's hand this run off because now we've got numbers in the run game. So wide zone allows us to do that because you can really see the post-snap, like, mesh key, whether he's going to be able to run you down or whether he's going to have to play this solution that you got over here to the field or to the boundary, whatever you got. So run game-wise, I really like wide zone. And the way we teach our back is it don't really – I think some people kind of treat our wide zone as like a mid zone because it may bounce, but it may hit B gap. Yeah. You know, we teach our back like we're B gap to bounce in our wide zone scheme. You know, we may end up getting some type of boundary reduction where now the jack's kind of down in a 5 and they bump that 4 technique over to a, you know, maybe a 3 technique, and they don't have a safety if we're trips to the field. Yeah. Now the safety's kind of cheated over and they're trying to play some type of poach because like we're pretty vertical pass game. And so now our tackle's soloed on that jack, so he may not be able to reach him unless he spots him. Well, then he's just going to take his inside hat and he's just going to kind of wash him. And the guard may end up doing the same thing because now the center's going to end up IDing it to the front side backer unless the backer's plussed. Well, then the center may get to him, and now that thing may hit like A to B almost based off of that's just the path that they give us, you know. And so that's really kind of why I love wide zone is because the wide zone, we teach it all kind of the same, but that wide zone may end up being more almost A gap, front side A, than it ends up being C based off the look that we get. And for us, I mean, in the throw game, we're going to attack people vertically. That's what we do. Like out of bunch, out of snuggies, out of a stack set, we're going to try to attack either the seams or the sidelines as many times as possible. And I feel like that gives us opportunities to keep 2 safeties high because I like to run the football. Yeah. You know, I'm an offensive line at heart and played offensive line in college, and I like to run the ball, you know. Well, if you're constantly attacking people on the seams and sidelines, I mean, eventually you're going to hit 1 or 2 of them, you know. And we play so much 11 personnel and 21 personnel that a lot of times we'll get guys that kind of pre-spin and play 1 high safety. Well, if you get a 1 high safety look, if you're playing some type of cover 3, everybody knows, like, well, let's try to attack this seam if that corner's not going to get on the divider, you know. So we try to attack in the throw game seams and sidelines. In the run game, I really like wide zone.
Well, stop right here for a second. Somewhere out there listening to this eventually is going to be a young coach that's in the spot that you are starting out, is in a spot like we are now, and they want to be in your seat. What kind of advice do you give to that coach as far as getting to that head coaching role? Yeah,
I think ask as many questions as possible. That always helps. And wherever you are, I would assume there's probably a resource somewhere. I would ask my head coach, hey, give me some responsibilities, like, you know, whether it could be in fundraising. You know, hey, give me a fundraiser to take care of, because a lot of times, I know for me when I was a young coach and I was coming up, like I just thought it was about, well, I need to know this X and O. You know, I need to know this scheme. And when you get to be a head coach, like that's the least thing you get to do. Yeah. You know, like you don't get to do as much of that as you want to. And so, ask for opportunities. Just be a like, have good work ethic. You know, I think number one thing is like be on time. You know, if you're supposed to have a 9:30 staff meeting, then be there at 9. Like don't be there at 9:25. Yeah. You know, and then when a meeting's going on or you're breaking down tape, like, don't have your phone out. Like, I think there's a lot of things, some great things that can happen, like when people, like, go back to, like, getting pencil and paper and, like, writing stuff down in notebooks. You know, and we give our guys, like, unit manuals. And I'm like, you don't need your phone in here, man. Like, there's a time and place, like, when, like, you might need it in certain scenarios, like when we're maybe breaking something down. But, like, we're going to give you a unit manual. We will have pens ready for you when you walk in here. Like, just write some stuff down, you know. I think that's important. And then I think just don't take yourself too seriously, you know. I think, man, all too often I got caught up in this. Like, I was always looking for credit, you know. I was looking for, I want that credit, or I want this, or I want that. Like, we coach high school football. You know, it's the best thing in the world. Like, I love doing it. It ain't never felt like a job yet. And to be honest with you, I think when I've got this job, as early as, like, as recent as 3 years ago, like, having the opportunities to, I don't know, do podcasts or do interviews or get my picture taken, like that was a big deal. I thought that was a big deal to me. And then the longer I'm in this seat, like the less that becomes a big deal. Like the more I just want to be like around our kids, be in the weight room, like coach football, you know. And I think we kind of get away from that a little bit because we're always looking for somebody to validate us. And like, man, social media is awesome. But it can be toxic at times too. You know, and so when you're looking for validation as a young coach, look in your own unit room, because that's where you need it. If those guys trust you, that means more than anything else in the world anyway. Can they come talk to you? Can they ask for your advice, or they got to go ask the coordinator for advice? You know, when your guys in your unit can come to you and be like, Coach, like if this guy spins, like how do you want us to run this route? Is he going to come ask you, or is he going to go ask the coordinator? Or is he going to go ask the head coach? Like, I think that says a lot about who you are as a coach. And, like, build enough trust with your guys where they come ask you. Because eventually, like, your head coach is going to see that. And so that would probably be my best advice to a guy that's, you know, just kind of getting into it now.
Coach, I've asked this to everybody and because it's an important question to me. But what is your why? Why do you coach ball? What gets you up out of bed every morning, gets you going?
Man, I just love having an impact on kids. You know, I teach geometry too. Yeah. So I teach 6 periods of geometry. So, you know, 1st through 6th, I'm geometry. 7th and 8th, I'm football, you know. And the opportunity to impact kids in whatever capacity I can, like I enjoy doing that. Like, that's what fills me up. Because, man, this has never felt like a job, and when it starts to feel like a job, I'm going to get out. I'm going to do something else. But the interactions I get to have with these guys, especially like our football guys, for example, I tell them all the time, like, I can dislike your football, and it has nothing to do with you. Like, I can coach you hard and dislike football and, like get on you about, like, you not running this route right or you not fitting this, you know, zone scheme up right. And then 10 minutes later, we can chop it up in the office, man, and nothing's going to change. Like, I still love you, you know? And being able to impact those guys. And there was a cool thing that captured, you was talking about our YouTube show with CJ. After we won the game against Boaz in the regular season, man, there was an awesome, like, he just, like, luckily just because he's like, man, my battery died on my camera, so I had to do it on my phone. I was like, man, I don't care. And we had an inside linebacker named Titan, which is an awesome inside linebacker name, by the way.
About that.
All right. And he's been a starter for 3 years. I mean, one of our staples. I mean, he's been defensive player of the year for all 3 years I've been there. Was, you know, Etowah County defensive MVP, like, stud player. And, like, he was so emotional at that game. And, like, he knew, like, we didn't play great defensively that night. Like, they had a great plan for us. But, like, he was just so emotional after the game. Like, he caught like a little clip, and, like, we were talking and we were hugging. He's like, we've been talking about getting a win like this for 3 years. And, like, that's why you coach. Yep. Man, the win's cool. Don't get me wrong. But, like, we played a game against, I think it was that game. I think it was Boaz. We had a kid play defensive tackle for us. Never played football until 2 years ago, ever. Didn't play that year, and then this past season gets a chance to start that game. And, like, we're, like, after it's over, like, it's an emotional deal, and he just got dang tears, like, rolling down his eyes. And after he's like, man, this is the coolest experience I've ever had. Like, that's why you coach.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
And, like, the win's awesome. The win's fun. But, like, man, they'll forget that win. But he won't forget how he felt about that win.
You're exactly right.
You know what I mean? And, like, that, the impact that we get to have on our guys that's why I coach.
Yes, sir.
Well, Coach, we really appreciate you being here, man. We're, you know, just listening to you talk here, I'm absolutely ecstatic about listening to your presentations. You know, so thank you for coming. Yeah. You know, we appreciate Chief Pigskin putting us on the online clinic and in conjunction with us at ALFBCHAT. You know, we're just so grateful for this game continuing to grow in our state, and coaches like you who are willing to give back to other coaches and continue to push this thing. So, again, thank you for being here, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate y'all having me. I'm excited about it.
Yes, sir.